Hey guys, welcome along. Today we're going to go over two really quick, simple, easy tarp setups here. I like to camp with a fly, otherwise just simply known as a tarp. This allows me to travel light and fast. There's no poles, there's very little assembly, it's just strings and sticks, pegs, toggles, that's pretty much it. I also use a few little quick link carabiners, which you'll see, the not climbing rated ones. They're just simply there for clipping things together, along with a couple of those Prusik loops, which are just like I showed you in some of the other videos before. That's basically just the double fisherman's knot making a continual loop, closed piece of string. Very simple, you just do a couple of wraps around the string, bing bang, they hold really tight, you slide them back and forth, they set in their places, and you can pull on them from side to side and they don't move. Really simple, really easy. So stick along guys, I'll show you two really simple, easy ones. One for fair weather camping, the diamond shape or diamond plow fly tarp setup, and the second one is a little bit more closed up. It's a little bit more reminiscent of an actual tent. It's a little bit better when the weather turns dirty. It's closed in fairly tight, so it offers you just a little bit of breathing room. It lets the air pass through gently, but it also prevents you from getting poured on all night. Stick with us guys and we'll get right into it. Also along today, we've got two tips of the day. Stick around, these will make your life a little bit simpler, keep things easy for you. See you soon. Before I get into it, I'm going to show you here a little bit. What does it take to go fly camping? Some people ask me all the time. Obviously, point number one is it takes a fly. This is a 3x3 meter sill nylon tarp that I put together myself. It's actually not perfectly square, so it's a little bit less than 3 meters by 3 meters. Makes it a wee bit awkward setting up a couple of configurations, as you'll see. Tip of the day number one, tennis balls. We'll see how these come into play a little bit later. We are going to not necessarily need, but I always just carry a couple of tent pegs, because what do they weigh? They weigh nothing. I've got 5 of them there. There are of course tent pegs all around us. All of these trees here, they're tent pegs waiting to happen. But they're there, and I always clip them together with a little unrated non-climbing carabiner. It just makes them real handy. They stay together and it's real easy to keep your camp in order. I also have here 5 hanks of 5 meters nylon cordage. This is my guy lines. This is how I pull everything out and set everything up. They're hanked, and that I'll get into that. That's tip number 2 of the day. Over here we've got a little mini carabiner, and it's holding 6 little wee bank line Prusiks. And this over here is a hank of some heavier duty nylon cordage. This is my ridge line, and that's pretty much the bare bones of it. Now you can carry yourself a little wee tarp to put down on the ground to lie on. This is the bare minimum of what you need to pass the night comfortably in the bush. Of course, I do bring a sleeping bag on top of that, and all of that goes into this little wee bag. That's it. That's all you need. And even then, you can get rid of those. You can get rid of the tent pegs. Do with a few less pieces of cordage. These loops, of course, here of Prusik down in the middle, they can just really quickly become extensions to the tie-outs that are already on the side of the thing. Make some pegs out of some sticks. Piece of cake. You're in business. Stick around, guys. We'll show you how this all goes together. Alright, now this one, guys, is a wee bit tricky for me to set up personally, because my tarp here, I've made this out of silnai, and it should be 3 meters by 3 meters, but just due to the hems and the folding, to the stitching and everything like that, this one's not perfectly square. So this one doesn't pull out and make a proper diamond point or a diamond plow tarp setup. Now, a diamond plow is typically a much more fair weather type of setup. This one here, you definitely don't want it blasting a gale, you don't want it blowing crazy wind or pissing rain. You want it to be fairly decent, just to keep the dew off you. Now again, it of course uses the same sort of carabiner and Prusik setup here, which I do almost always. Trucker's hitch, same thing, one little standing post. It's pegged out in the back corner, pegged out in the 2 opposite corners, and then you bring this one up and across. Now this little bulge that you see in the middle here, this is my little trick of the day. Now it's not something you're going to find everywhere, or everybody's carrying with them on a camp. And basically what it is, it's pretty straightforward. There's a stick in there that's holding up the center. Just because mine's not quite square, it doesn't pull tight, doesn't stand up on its own properly, so I need something to support it in the middle. But what my tip of the day and what my trick here is this. I carry 1 or 2 of these with me when I go out camping. Yeah, tennis ball. Okay, now nobody likes a hole in their tarp, and obviously if you just jam a dirty old stick from the bush up in there, you're risking yourself having to buy a new tarp. But if you take one of these, you give it one of those over the top of a stick, just like this, Boom. Instant, soft, round support. So that's what I've done in here. I've gone inside and I'll show you. There's heaps of room in here. 2 people can sleep in here real easy. And there's my tennis ball up on top of my stick, which is just sitting on the ground, and it's pushing up in the center, keeping it up, keeping it nice and taut, keeping it so it sheds rain, and preventing a hole in the tarp. So that's my tip of the day. This is your diamond plow configuration for a tarp. Obviously, like I said, works much better if it's square. You can go ahead and peg everything down in the sides if you want. I just didn't bring very many pegs out with me today. Kind of shit the bed on that one. But here it is, there they are. It's a little bit of a spin on your classic A-frame. It's low in the back, down here, a little bit of an opening. It's a little bit of air pass through. It doesn't get stuffy in there, but it's still high enough off that it's not touching you, it's not dripping down, it's not soaking through on your sleeping bag. We've got a ridge line, we've got a single stake in the back, we've come up across the top. Got a wee clove hitch here, redirected down to the bottom. Okay, one more peg down here, and right in the middle we've done that little trucker's hitch. So that pulls it real nice and tight. Okay, now this pole is gonna not plant it in the ground. It's just standing there. It's gonna have a tendency to wobble left and right on you until you get the 2 sides staked out. So what you've done here is I've just gone through the corner of each one of these pull tabs. I've looped, I've stuck a loop, sorry, of my rope that's attached to my peg through there, and just put a toggle. Just jam the stick through the hole. That way it's all holding by friction. If you want to take it apart, real easy, just gonna pull this stick out. Boom, that comes off of that. Pull those pegs out. It's gone. No knots to untie, no nothing to do there. Come up the top here and you'll have a look at this ridge. On my ridge line, I've sewn this extra 1-inch piece of webbing across with lots of tie down points, so I can, you know, pull it from every direction, from the center, from the back, from the front, from both sides. This way I know I can pull it real tight. I can crank on that all I want. I'm not going to rip my tarp open. So, peg down on each corner in the back over here. That peg down there. What we've done here is I always carry a bunch of these little wee non-climbing carabiners with me. And these little non-climbing carabiners are fantastic. That means I can do a double fisherman's, make a nice little loop. I've got one right here in my pocket. This is just a little loop bank line. Okay, double fisherman's knot here, just to make it so that it's well looped on itself and it's solid. And then I've tied a prusik. Now prusik, I haven't shown you that before. Basically, I'll show it to you really quick right here, right now. Go like this, okay, you've got it on the backside. And come down across here, and you're gonna start feeding one of the loops through the center of the other. So if you did it once, like this, you have a lark's foot. If you keep going around, do that 2 or 3 times, then all of a sudden you will have what is known, as a classic prusik, and you just feed it up, tie it up just like this. Now classic prusik is fantastic, it's helpful in all sorts of things, because once you get that on there, you can slide it around to where you want it, you can crank your tarp out tight with it, but when you start pulling back on it this way, it jams, it locks up, bites into that other piece of rope, doesn't let it slide around. We haven't pulled this very, very, very outside edge up along the ridgeline. We've gone to the second loop back, which leaves us this little flap that hangs down. Now this makes a halfway of a doorway. So you can see it's a bit of a modified A-frame. This allows you to slide on in underneath there. I'll do that in a second. Just gonna lift up on this. Okay, it's tied back to each corner here, my midpoint pullouts. That allows me to just get on inside of this. It's real low like. But once I'm in here, there's heaps of room. Okay, I'm not tall, but I mean, this gives me tons and tons of room in here. I can easily put my hand straight up above me before I touch that tarp. Of course, I can always make this higher or lower. Here it is, all packed up. One fly, one little goodie bag full of all the bits and pieces that you need to set it up. I guarantee you cannot find, will not find, a tent out there that weighs less, packs smaller, is more versatile than a fly and a few pieces of string. Get into it, give it a try. This is pretty much the maximum. I think you can get away with even a lot less than this. Sleeping bag, sleeping on the ground, under the stars, this is it. This is the way to do it. New Zealand styles, baby. Sometimes you have to set up in the dark. It's not ideal, it slows you down a little bit, but there are things you can do to counteract that. And one of those things is to have your guy lines hanked. Which instead of just stuffing it in the bag and ending up with a million knots, this way here, you're always going to be ready to go, super fast, super easy. I always like to have my guy wires with one end already tied in a loop permanently. This just allows me to stick it through any tie down points on my tent, bang a little stick through here, instant toggle, pull away, nothing to tie, nothing to undo, no knots involved. Okay, just slip that loop through, piece of stick. Start with the piece that you're going to pull on, or the piece that you want to have tied to the tent. That one's going to be sticking out the top. This is going to be your pull point. From there, you're just going to lay that across the top of your hand, just like this. Okay, so that the loop is up. All right, where are you? There you go. The loop is up and outside of your hand, just like that. Okay, and then from there, you're just going to start wrapping around your index and baby finger in a figure 8 fashion. So I'm going to go around the back of my baby finger and around the back of my index. Cross back over, back of my baby finger, back of the index. You're just going to keep doing this like this, winding it up in a figure of 8 style. When you get down to about 30 centimeters, 1 foot of cordage left, you're going to take that and you're just going to start by going around the back side of the whole spool of rope here. Go up 1 loop just to cross over itself. Helps to hold it from unraveling, and work your way back down. You'll know you've crossed over. You get this little X. You can see this here. The cordage is wrapped over itself. There we go. And then you're just going to pull one of your fingers out, bottom, holding it nice and snug and secure. And you can pinch on that. Finish wrapping it all up. Rest of the way down like that. Finishing on the last one here by just popping your little wee tag end in underneath the last loop. Like this. Okay, there it is. It's in there. Snug it down. I use my teeth. Okay, there is a hank of rope. So it's like that. It's ready to go. It's all nice. It's clean. It's tidy. It sits together. It doesn't fall apart. Doesn't unravel. When you come time to set up your camp, like we spoke about, you poke this through the hole, put your thing in there, and then from there you just got to pull it. And that's just going to feed out. No knots, no muss, no fuss. Right to the end, nice and clean. All the way out. And also, if you don't need to use your entire length of rope, well, you can just leave that little bit of hank at the end in its place, wrap it around your peg. Easy peasy, done. Be ready to go, be ready to deploy. Think of ways to make yourself faster. Hank your cordage.